So we start easy with simile. I haven't even defined that for you. Is that mean? Yeah, totally. It's a comparison. Cool. We know that. You're in grade 12. So your classic simile in the play is look like the innocent flower. Check this one too. So this is Lady Macbeth. We're going to talk about these as we go. So your face, my Thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters. Can someone tell me then, have a guess, what does she mean? Your face is like a book where men may read strange matters. What does she mean?
He's just looking really weird, and they're gonna tell something's up by looking at his face.
Right, so his face is giving away his weird vibe. Absolutely. So that's the simile there. She's likening him to a book. Awesome. There's so many in the play. These are just a few. Malcolm describes Lady Macbeth as fiend-like. Who else gets referred to as fiends? The witches, yeah. So a fiend is what? Fantastic. Metaphor. So if it's like or as for a simile, a metaphor, can we say just is? You're comparing two things, but it just is. You don't use like or as. School is a jail. That is a metaphor. Some of you may interpret that more literally. So the second part of Lady Macbeth's famous quote is a metaphor because she says be the serpent. She doesn't say be like. I told you we're going to write some cool stuff here. It also implies that she's extremely directive. Billy, you might want to take this note down because it's related to gender. It's very directive, and you could easily talk about that if you're talking about gender. Yeah.
In our essay, would we say it's a metaphor? We'd say what the device is?
Absolutely. It's a great question. In the exam, do you say it's a metaphor? Hell yes. So next week you're going to see there's sort of three layers you're going to operate between. One is knowing what happens in the play. Cool. Great job. Two is knowing values, attitudes, and beliefs of the time and how the play reflects those. And the cherry on top to get in the A range is that you're able to discuss Shakespeare's writing choices. For instance, if I was to put this in a sentence, when Lady Macbeth instructs her husband to be the serpent, Shakespeare has used a metaphor to assert two things. One, Lady Macbeth's power in the relationship, which goes against gender norms of the time, and two, that she wants him to metaphorically be as evil as the serpent. A in the targets I'm hitting there. Look at these good questions, yeah.
When we're writing it, how formal is it?
Extremely formal. In how I just spoke there too. Yeah, totally. Great questions. Let's roll, people. Another metaphor we have, Macduff refers to Macbeth as a hellkite. That is a metaphor when he learns that his family's been slaughtered. Donalbain, that's a metaphor. Daggers in men's smiles. Okay, cool. There's nothing serious in mortality. Gosh, when is this happening? It's down here for us. It's Duncan's murder. Let me read this section first before we read the example. Here we have Macbeth with his melodramatic reaction when he learns about Duncan's murder. What does it mean to be melodramatic?
Very dramatic.
Yeah, that's great. You know, over the top. He appears overwrought with emotion to ensure that no one becomes suspicious. He suggests that life is now totally ridiculous and superficial because Duncan is gone, and in fact, quote, the wine of life, Duncan, is now gone after leaving the mere lees, which is the word for, as I said when we read it, it's the stuff at the bottom of your wine glass or at the bottom of a barrel of wine. So it's almost like the sediment. So let's look at that quote. He's over the top, guys. We know this. He's being an absolute melodramatic crybaby. It backfires on him because it actually increases the suspicion. There's nothing serious in mortality. All is but toys. So life is not even real. He uses a metaphor of wine to describe his overwrought grief. Dramatic irony, heaps of that. What is it though? People have missed lessons, so for real, there'll be people in here going, what is dramatic irony? What's dramatic irony, please?
The audience knows what's going on, but the characters don't.
Great. Just make a note for yourself so you know. Characters don't. Great. That's heaps in the play. Duncan walks into the castle and says, "This castle hath a pleasant seat. The air recommends itself." Dun, dun, dun. We know he's about to die. Here's an irony. As his host, I should be shutting the door against his murderer. I shouldn't be bearing the knife myself. There's irony in that. It's discordant. It's incongruous. I should be his welcoming host, not bearing the knife myself. 'Twas a rough night. Wink, wink. He says this after the morning after Duncan's murder. Lennox and Old Man are saying, whoa, things were weird last night. There was heaps of wind. We heard strange screams of death. And Macbeth says, yeah, it was a rough night. The audience knows. The only people who are in on the murder at this point are the audience and the Macbeths. This is a cool strategy. So I'm in the exam mode right now. You can hear it. I'm thinking of Shakespeare's writing choices. This was a literary device used to increase the tension, heighten the drama, and it lets the audience in on the crime. But it heightens the drama because the other characters are oblivious. Please make a note of this. I should edit that. It's not Banquo saying that. Let's check who says it. I think it's Macbeth. Or is it a murderer? I'll check that now. A murderer says he's safe in a ditch. I'll check that in 2 seconds. Everybody okay out there? If you're in the exam and you say a cool quote that has a lit device in it and you don't say what that lit device is in your analysis, it's a big missed opportunity.
When we cite quotes, obviously you say you said it, but you don't have to have acts.
What a great question. No. So we're on pathetic fallacy. Let's go. We finished. The alarm went off right when Leah asked this brilliant question. Do you remember it? She said, do you have to put the act and scene when you do a quote in the exam? The answer was no. You don't need to. If you were going to, it would look like that, and that's a hot mess and it's horrible. You'd only do that if you had access to the play. You'd have to put, this means act, scene, and line. It's disgusting. So we're on to pathetic fallacy. Please follow on, we're going to go quick. This is a literary device that attributes human qualities and emotions to inanimate objects of nature. The word pathetic in the term is not used in the derogatory sense of being miserable or silly. Rather, it stands for imparting emotions to something else. Pathetic fallacy is a kind of personification that gives human emotions to inanimate objects. And it's really used to create mood. And it's about creating mood. So in Frankenstein, you guys saw that heaps with rain, thunder, mountains, reflecting Victor's crumbling emotions. You're seeing it in Macbeth with the thunder and lightning whenever the witches arrive. You're seeing it in their reference to, quote, fog and filthy air. The night of the regicide. I think it's Lennox. We have to check that. Someone says, we heard the wind blowing and we heard the screams of death. Lennox says the earth was feverish and did shake. Can anyone remember what natural thing that refers to? Yeah, awesome. What else have we got? Check out this. Come thick night and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell. So what does it mean to pall? I've got it there for you. It's a dark, check that. It's a really good word. It's a dark cloud of smoke, but it also has this awesome messed up dark meaning here as well, in that it's also a cloth spread over a coffin. Pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell. So apparently dun is a greyish brown colour. Another example. As I said, this process team is just looking at little chunks. You could sit here all day. It's just a little tasting plate, if you will. Imagery, there's bucket loads of it. Let's have a look at some good examples. But first, just tell me what the hell is imagery. Yep.
Words that create a picture in the reader's mind.
Okay, sure, I'll take that. I like that. Okay, it creates a picture. Only a picture, though?
An image.
An image based on the... Beautiful. So it can be smell, touch, taste, sound. Let's have a look at some great imagery here. Macbeth defeated MacDonald. This is one of my favourites. You should know this by now. Macbeth unseamed him from the nave to the chaps and fixed his head upon our battlements. Unseamed him from the nave to the chaps. This is imagery. It means cutting someone from the navel right up. Your chaps is your bottom jaw.
I thought it was saying chaps as in... Yeah, that's what I think. As in bonnets.
As in the clothing item?
Like as in chaps as in two.
Oh, cool. Cool.
I don't know. That's
Everyone, cool. On this occasion, we mean the bottom jaw. Next example, when Macbeth first has the idea to murder Duncan, he describes a horrid image. Moving on. He describes a horrid image, and get this for imagery. Shakespeare's not just saying, I am scared. No way, look at how scary this is. It unfixes his hair and makes his seated heart knock at his ribs. That is some damn good imagery. Oof. We got the classic Lady Macbeth with some very, you might call this, violent imagery. We might remember this from her soliloquy, where she describes plucking. Oh, it's brilliant. Plucking her nipple from the boneless gums of a smiling babe and dashing the brains out. Violent imagery. The phrase gashed, stabs, bloody instructions. I can't remember who said that. I should add it. When Macbeth learns that Fleance survived the murder attempt, he says to Lady Macbeth, we've scotched the snake, not killed it. Scotch means put an end to or cut. So we've half done this deed. We've got rid of Banquo, but we haven't fully eradicated the threat. We've scotched the snake, not killed it. Ross says your wife and babes savagely slaughtered. Lots of bird imagery. A falcon, an owl, a crow, a wren, a chicken, a kite. Am I forgetting any that you guys can remember? Macbeth's the guy who has to come in and tell Macbeth, hey, Macbeth, sorry to tell you, but the forest is actually moving. Macbeth says, you look like a goose. Like he looks like a fearful goose. Lady Macbeth says, come to my woman's breasts and take my milk for gall. If you didn't catch this in all of our discussions, gall is bile or a kind of like bitter poison. We discussed this as we read that Lady Macbeth describes Macbeth as looking green and pale. So you might say in the exam, Shakespeare uses colours to reflect Macbeth's emotions. So this idea of whiteness is used to reflect fear. She's covered in blood, yet she would be ashamed to wear a heart so white. It's weak, and it represents fear. Macbeth says, never shake thy gory locks at me. Who's he talking to there? Beautiful Banquo's ghost. I don't think I'm going too fast. People are really doing great out there. Cool. Here's a good one. Macbeth tells Lady Macbeth that the word amen keeps getting stuck in his throat. That's imagery, right? Macbeth could have said, I'm finding it difficult to be religious since I killed the king. But that's boring. He says the word amen gets stuck in his throat, which is also, we said it's a symbol of guilt. We know, he knows it's a sin. Macbeth says, full of scorpions is my mind. What the hell does that mean? That's imagery in order to communicate what? He's not saying full of caterpillars is my mind. So what might he be implying? Full of scorpions is my mind. Have a guess. I don't have to write the exam. You guys have to take an educated guess. Poison. So why has he said scorpions? Is he happy or sad in that statement? He's sad, but give me a better word. It's all right. We have to take educated guesses. You could say anguish. And guys, don't forget the big one. Guilt. Okay, I actually really quite like this one, so please listen up because this is bloody good. Okay, so then he says, when Macbeth finds out that, it's after the trees have moved, and then the nasty one, when he finds out Macduff is born via a C-section, he says, he draws the line there. He says, be these juggling fiends no more believed. Let's get this sorted. A fiend is an evil spirit or demon. How many balls are we typically juggling?
3.
3. How many witches are there? Good, eh? We're like, oh my God, Shakespeare's pretty good. Juggling, apparitions floating in the air. It's like juggling, court jesters and tricksters. It implies that it's an illusion. It's implying that the witches have enjoyed and taken pleasure in tricking him. Oh no, I forgot to edit that out. Sorry, whoopsie daisy. Sorry guys. Every year I forget to edit that out. It's alright, it's good. So if you're in the exam and you can remember juggling fiends, that's a brilliant quote. Because look how much we got from it. You're doing great out there, people. Okay, Lady Macbeth, here's the smell of the blood. So it's still on Imagery. Smell of the blood. All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. Ew. I guess her hands also stink. The witches give us lots of brilliant imagery. Baboon's blood. Pour in sow's blood, and we know it's not just any sow. It's the one that hath eaten her 9 babies. That's no accident. That's Shakespeare developing a theme of nature being messed with.
Yeah.
Sour bird.
Sow is a cow. Oh, sorry, bloody pig, right?
Oh, okay.
Let's triple check that. Yeah. Sow is a female pig. We got it. It's good to check. No, they're not even helping us. It gets worse. Check this for good imagery, guys. Turns out Shakespeare's really good. Greece. That's sweating from the murderer's gibbet. So they have a huge cauldron and they're putting this stuff in. Not many students have heard what the hell a gibbet is. Get this. Gibbeting was the practice of locking criminals in a human-shaped cage and hanging them up for display in public areas as a warning to others. After about 10 days, I can't even read it, it's so gross. After about 10 days in warm weather, the liquefied fat of the corpse sweats through the skin, drips down, and forms puddles of grease. Okay, so that is going in to the cauldron.
I hate to say it, miss, but the witches might be kind of gross.
Yeah, and is it any wonder things got so messed up if that's the ingredients? Guys, that's a real thing. People were really in that. It's just the wires, so it would open and you'd be put in. And I guess, yeah, so it's warm weather. And you, which I guess just go and do your grocery shopping and look up and go, I better not steal. Let's keep rolling. Symbolism. We know what this is. We've looked at it 1,000 times. Symbols that, you might just do this, represent something beyond the literal. It's another safe option. I mean, everything symbolizes something. But you'll find some are better than others. For instance, the dagger is a good symbol. With the dagger, you wouldn't say imagery. Oh, that's a great question. Thanks for asking it. It's a bloody good question. What does milk symbolize, guys? Can someone answer that, please? It's mentioned a lot in the play. Take my milk for gall. And she also worries, I'm worried that you, Macbeth, is too full of the milk of human kindness to get this murder done.
It's like love. Or like goodness. Like
We're nearly there. Hang on, we got good stuff. The boys in the middle are saying femininity, i.e., I mean, it's a patriarchal society, so being feminine is being weak. Phenomenal, guys. Josh, that answers your great question. And it would explain why Lady Macbeth wants nothing to do with milk. Yeah. The knell is mentioned a few times. It's that bell for death. The raven is mentioned a number of times. It usually symbolizes death. In this brilliant quote, stars hide your fires, let not light see my black and deep desires. We talked about this ages ago, and what did we say light might symbolize? Pardon? Heaven, God, yeah, excellent. Yeah, because he doesn't want He doesn't want God to see his sin. Scorpions, check this out, guys. The scorpion in the Bible is a symbol for evil. Malicious and crafty men are compared to scorpions. Has anyone ever seen a scorpion in the wild? Don't they have weird heads? Anyone seen a scorpion in the wild? I have, and it scared the crap out of me. They're tiny, but they are very, very dangerous. Year 12s, let me ask you, what might candles symbolize?
Life?
Got a brief candle.
Yes. Good. Yeah, I was like, I'm not following, but that's the evidence.
Hey, out brief candle. Lovely. What else can it symbolize? I don't. Time? In some ways, it also symbolizes safety. And I'm referring to Lady Macbeth. Snakes and serpents, they go right back even to Frankenstein. Hey, I guess evil. And that's also biblical. You know what? I'm going to keep going. We'll stop after motif for a quick stretch. So if we've just done symbolism, what the hell's a motif then? It recurs more than once. Awesome. Sandave, can you guys talk in a moment? Thanks. Because I need to go really fast. A motif, yeah, it recurs. So it can be an image, phrase, situation, or concept. It appears multiple times. If you're in the exam, you're talking about daggers, you go for the win, you go for the A range, and you say the dagger is a symbol in the play. It's also a motif in that it appears a few times. Birds become a motif. Sleep is a motif. It's referred to a lot. The lack of sleep is part of the chaos. Nature's great nourisher, I think sleep is referred to. Nature and the supernatural weapons. Time, death, half-truths, or nice. They go all the way through, even the doorman talking about alcohol being something that can be fun and horrible simultaneously. Light and dark, masculinity, hands, clothing. A symbol can be a motif if it's repeated in various intervals throughout a work of literature. If a symbol only appears in a single instance, it's not a motif. As I did say, it does get a bit harder because symbolism, metaphor, they're not that tricky. Whereas when we get into paradox, it kind of is a bit tricky. So a paradox, the definition is here for you. This is a seemingly absurd or contradictory statement, which when investigated may prove to be well-founded or true. This is a phrase you'll probably use in the exam, paradoxical. This is a lit device. Shakespeare's really good at them. In some ways, it's almost like a riddle. I often think of Gollum with these phrases that the witches say. For instance, the first witch in Act 1, Scene 1, she says, "When shall we meet again?" The second witch says, "When the hurly-burly's done." If you missed that, it's chaos. Here's the paradox. When the battle's lost and won. It's deliberately a little bit... Let's look at our definition. It seems absurd. It certainly sounds contradictory. So now that we know the play, what the hell do they mean? When the battle's lost and won. In other words, we have here all battles have one winning side and one losing side. Reading into it deeper, we see that Macbeth will win many battles in the play, but for each victory, he'll also have a loss. We later see Macbeth win his battles to become king when he kills Duncan, Banquo, and Macduff's family. However, these murders actually lead to him losing his own wife and own life. So it's a contradictory statement. One of the most famous ones is this one. Fair is foul and foul is fair. This is a paradox. It's seemingly absurd and a seemingly contradictory. To explain it a little bit for you, the witches are saying that what is fair to man is foul to them, but what men say is foul, the witches see as fair. Put simply, the witches are seen as evil, but they see themselves as good. The paradox also tells the audience that appearances can be deceiving. This is a main theme in the play. Macbeth appears to be a man of honor, unlikely to commit foul acts. However, he does in fact become foul. Macbeth believes that what may be seen as wrong or foul are the steps he must take to become king and stay in power. So this is reflective of a main theme in the play. Here is a number of paradoxical statements in a row. Lesser than Macbeth and greater. Not so happy, yet much happier. Thou shalt get kings, though thou be none. Who are they speaking to?
Banquo.
Nice. Guys, understandably, Banquo would be hearing that going, huh? What do you mean? I'm lesser than Macbeth, but I'm greater. The hell does that mean?
We'll just do one today.
Lesser as in like his role is lesser, but he's got greater people.
And probably better morals. Yeah, beautiful. So he's lower ranking, but he's a better man. Not so happy, yet much happier. The hell does that mean? You're not going to be as happy. So this is all to Banquo. You might not be, maybe it means you're not going to be as happy right now, but in the long run you'll be happier. I don't know what that means. Yes.
Is it saying like he's not very happy himself, but he'll be much happier than Macbeth?
I like that. Yeah, I think
That's very good answer. Thou shalt get kings, but he won't be one. Yeah. Because remember, yeah, definitely. Remember who escaped. He might become king later, but Banquo won't be one. You guys are doing great. Okay, so then we've got after Macbeth first contemplates murdering King Duncan, he says nothing is but what is not, which signifies that nothing is real except the promises which seem so out of place and surreal. Lady Macduff says, fathered he is, yet fatherless. This is a paradox. What does she mean by that? Because she thinks the dad is a traitor. Absolutely. He might as well be dead because he left them vulnerable. Let's keep rolling. I told you it gets harder. We've got paradox and now we have equivocation. This is the use of ambiguous language to conceal the truth or avoid committing oneself. That's it. His name is not the doorman, the porter. It might not, check out this. This is some good stuff. It might not seem important. He's the guy that goes and answers the door with that loud banging on the morning that they discover Duncan's dead. So this person has said, I've just taken this from someone's analysis. It might not seem important, yet it does help to develop the theme of, how's that for a phrase? Paradoxical equivocations. That's a bit of a... So what do we mean by paradoxical equivocations? The porter jokes with Macduff that liquor is an equivocator because it makes a man horny but keeps him from doing anything about it. In the porter's words, drink provokes the desire but it takes away the performance. Therefore, much drink may be said to be an equivocator with lechery. Lechery means excessive or offensive sexual desire. If someone is looking at you in a lecherous way, it wouldn't feel nice. Guess what? All of those prophecies that come out of the cauldron are instances of equivocation. Except for that one. That one's straight up truth, isn't it? Beware Macduff. None of Woman Born, Burnham Wood, and Dunsinane Hill are all equivocations. I don't believe that or that actually are. I think it's mainly just those other ones. You never know what you're going to remember in the exam, and that's why we're covering a few different tricks. So what's an oxymoron then? What's that Elvis song? Cruel to be kind? An oxymoron is a figure of speech where two contradictory or opposite words are combined to create a dramatic effect. That's a paradox. I'm going to say this would be tough love would be an example. Opposite, opposite. So Macduff uses an oxymoron when he says joyful trouble to describe how hosting King Duncan is both an honour and a pain. After Malcolm's big rant about how he would be an awful king, Malcolm says, why are you silent? And Macduff says, welcome and unwelcome things. All of these serve to strengthen this theme of things not being balanced. So Shakespeare's brought in paradoxes, equivocation, oxymorons to create this world of things being disordered and not really making sense. I think we're in the home stretch. We are, absolutely. Here's a nice safe one. No one should be stressing about alliteration. Alliteration doesn't have too much to talk about, really. I mean, seriously, there's not much there. Don't talk about alliteration too much. However, there is a cool alliteration thing you could refer to. Fricative alliteration is the repetition of letters such as F, S, V, or Z. If you kick your toe and you say that out loud, you're using fricative alliteration. Now get this. Guys, the witches use it at the start. Fair is foul and foul is fair. And then they say, hover through the fog and the filthy air. And it creates a really dark mood. False face must hide what the false heart doth know. If you're talking about the witches, it could be something cool to mention. It creates the mood. Hover through the fog and the filthy air. There's kind of like a violence to it. Team, that is it. We're going to have a little break